All right. Hey everyone, Tadassa Damien here. And today I'm going to talk to you about how you can break your unhelpful thinking. And you might say, well, why do I need to do that? And the answer, my friends, is because if you don't think differently, you're going to struggle to act differently. And if you don't act differently, you don't get different outcomes. And I'm posting this because I've been thinking about how recently I made a video where I said, it wasn't magic that I ended up with more money in my retirement accounts. And no, it wasn't magic. It was labor under capitalism. That's true. But the question that you should all be asking is, well, what changed? Why did I end up with a different result? Why was the outcome different? Part of it was that I changed what I thought was possible because I changed my thinking, and then I acted differently. Two parts. I want to talk to you about how. Now, I'm wearing two hats today when I talk to you about this. Number one, my hat as someone who thinks really deeply about money and finances and economic justice. And my other hat as someone who works as a designer with technology. So what that really means is that I spend a lot of times with groups of people watching folks make decisions and helping folks do what's called abductive reasoning, which is taking two types of information that you might not normally put together and helping them come together. And this way of thinking, right, where you kind of started with one idea and you end up with something else entirely, is super important for those of us who are trying to change how we approach kind of anything. But in this case, we'll focus our examples and our topics on money and finances. So what I want you to take away from this is if the question is how do you end up with different outcomes, right? How do I make more money? How do I save money? You change your reality by doing different things, by what you try to do and by what you stop doing that's not working. Okie doke. Now, obviously, changing behavior isn't trivial. It's difficult. That's why we have psychology and self-help and behavioral science and religion and everything else in between, right? So if you were to say, and I hear people say this all the time, I need to save money, I need to track my money, right? That's coming from a logical place. This is what I think I'm supposed to do. Or I understand if I do this, I get some sort of outcome that I want. Okay, reasonable. But so often then what happens is that the outcome is, well, I didn't save money, or I didn't track all my money, or the app didn't make sense. I failed. Boom, I'm just going to go back to doing things the way that I was doing them. So there's a bumper sticker about this, right? If you do the same thing over and over and you expect a different outcome, that's the definition of you not making a lot of sense. So you start with something that's logical, but you end with a kind of illogical repetition of actions, right? So what's happening is honestly very simple to explain. Our minds are trained to deduct, to say first this, then that. If I want to save money, then I need to track my money. If I want to have a better financial outcome, I need to know this, that, or the next thing. And look, it's good to save money. It's good to know where your money's going and to have an idea of what's being spent. I don't want to throw shade on those. But if you are only thinking, I'm supposed to do this, therefore I have to do that. Oh, I'm not good at this, therefore I can't manage money. I'm not a person who understands this. You follow a logical, deductive path that leads you to feel like a freaking failure and to not ask the really crucial question of, why do I want to save money? Or why do I want to know what I'm spending my money on? Because when you start asking those questions, you can take a couple steps back and start to say to yourself, what is the outcome that I'm trying to get from this tactic, saving money, tracking what I'm spending? And could I get that outcome a different way? Or what is the problem I'm trying to solve, right? What gain am I trying to get by knowing where I'm spending my money? Because maybe you can solve that problem or get that gain a different way. Like, again, often I will hear people say things to me where they're like, okay, I really don't want to spend my money in ways that are like bad for the earth or bad for other people, which is commendable. But if you're not tracking your money, then you very well could be spending your money on ways that aren't aligned with your values. So maybe the outcome that you want is you're like, oh, I really want to spend my money or use my resources in ways that are more in line with how I want the world to be and how I want to support the world becoming more just, right? How else could you achieve that? There are 100% ways. If you reframe the why of what it is you're trying to do, this is abductive logic, okay? And it's really, really important. But I want to go a little deeper into not just why it's important, but how else you can use it. So here's the thing. You have to break your thinking to kind of get into this mindset of just not just saying, oh, I'm supposed to do this, I'm bad at it, never mind. Right? To actually stop and say, what's underneath? What's the problem underneath this? That's how I like to think about it. Right? And here's the thing. Here's where like creativity and imagination comes in. And honestly, here's where like the law of attraction gets it wrong. We are not law of attractioning right now. Okay? Because if you really struggle to imagine yourself as a person who could save money, or a person who could keep track of the money that's coming in, or a person who could make money, or own a house, or have a job you like, or whatever it is. If you literally can't imagine that, and there are a ton of systematic oppression reasons why you could not imagine that, right? I myself could not imagine myself to be a person who actually made enough money to feel like I could have all the things I needed for a very long time. If you literally can't imagine that, then you are really going to struggle to come up with answers to these problems, right? To figure out answers for yourself that actually help you get to that place. So one of the important things is creative thinking and imaginative thinking, where you say to yourself, in the example that I gave in my last video, I'm a person who could figure out how to put money into retirement accounts. I'm a person who could figure out how. I don't know yet how that's going to be, but I'm just going to stop and imagine myself as a type of person who could do that. And you know, y'all, I can really imagine, or I can remember the first day that I broke my thinking in this way. Okay, I was walking down the street in New York City, and you know, for years living here, I would just like walk in the neighborhoods and be like, oh, that house is nice. You know, I'll never have something nice. Oh, that must be a really lovely apartment building. I don't get to have anything like that. Da 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 da. Woe is me. On over and over on repeat until I can't tell you what changed, but I know that I was walking down the street one day and I was like, oh, that house is really nice. Yeah, I wonder what it takes. I wonder what you have to do to have a house in New York. I could go find out what one has to do to have a house in New York. That person might not be me now, but I could literally just go find out. And it changed everything, because instead of being like, oh, well, doesn't matter, it'll never be me, I went out and found out what one might need to do to go have a house in New York, right? Have a 6-figure job. Okay, that's what you need? Fine. You know, have a fair amount of savings, or have a family who will give you money, or a partner, or, you know, da 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 da, right? I found out what it was. And instead of being like this sort of, you know, screened, closed off thing that just felt inaccessible and confusing to me, I transformed how I thought about it, because I got the information, because I thought it was possible for myself to access the information, because I thought it was possible for myself to even learn and understand about it. I had to change the way I was thinking about it to take the actions to find out how it might be possible for me. How could I be that person? Not I will never be that person. It's a really big difference, right? Based on how I was thinking. So I want to go back and just re-specify how you can start to change some of your thinking, and especially for my friends and followers who are out there, who are folks who are like, you know, I'm never going to have a house. I'm never going to make money. I don't know anyone like that. Number one, I understand. If you don't know anyone who makes money, this is going to be more of an imagination and mind expanding exercise. And so let it be that. All right, think about what you think is a large salary. Just put like a big salary in your head. Now, just put a 1 in front of it, unless you already had a 1, and then put another number in front of it, right? Whatever it is, add a digit in front of it, so it's just got a lot bigger, okay? And now imagine that you know somebody who makes that salary, because the reality is you might not know that they make that salary. They might not be in your inner circle, but somebody who you are close to knows somebody who makes money. Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody. Maybe they are somebody who goes to one of your community groups that you're part of. Maybe it's someone who donates to an organization that you go to. Maybe it is somebody in extended family, right? You have to start thinking that this is a reality for people who you could know, not just famous people, but people who you could know. So you can start thinking that it could be a reality for you, right? So see what you can practice. Thinking is not laughable, not like a thing only bad or crappy people do. No, what is possible, big, that somebody who you like is and was able to do and still be a good person. Going back to how you can break your thinking. So say that there's something again that you've failed at: making money, saving money, tracking money, whatever it might be. 3 questions to ask yourself. Number 1, what was the outcome that you were going for? What outcome were you going for? And how else can you get that outcome? If you're trying to track money, maybe you just, because you want to spend less money, maybe you just track the spending that you do at restaurants so that you can reduce that spending, right? Now you've simplified the whole thing and you're just looking at one thing. Again, say that there's something you've been trying to accomplish, you're not, really getting there. What's the problem you're trying to solve, or what's the gain you're trying to get? How else could you solve that problem? How else could you achieve that gain, right? To go back to my example, I was how am I going to put more money into retirement? I was okay, what I'm trying to do is have more money in 20 to 30 years. How do I go about solving that, right? One way was to get a job that paid more money, so I had more cash flow, right? There's other ways to solve that problem, right? Having money in 20, 30 years, you could buy real estate. You could invest in non-retirement accounts. You could start a business that you imagine you're going to be able to sell, right? There's lots of ways. Once you start saying, how do I solve this problem? Not, I'm not a person who can't solve this problem. Word. Finally, going back to this reality or experience that you're wishing was yours, thinking of someone specific who you know or you really believe that you could know, who has that reality or close, right? So I want to come back because you need 2 things, right? 2 things. This creative, genuinely innovative thinking where you're putting 2 things together that you hadn't put together before. You need that generative, magical, innovative, big, creative, new thinking. You genuinely do. The other thing that you need is the actions and the learning and the new things that you're going to try because you've started thinking differently, right? These are the 2 that go together, right? The way that Octavia Butler said it, amazing Black queer visionary sci-fi writer, God bless, was, so be it, see to it. You have to think about the thing, so be it. And then you have to do things to make it happen, see to it, right? So if you want to, for example, make more money, this is a way. You can use behavioral science, right? Abductive logic and creativity to generate the type of magical thinking that will help you take the actions, the new and different actions, thinking differently, doing differently, that can help you change. Bride Free Fearless Money, talking about how to make it happen. And I believe in you. Cheers.